Hi everybody, welcome along to the latest edition of the David Power Jockeys Cup. And a man who will appreciate this competition is Sam Twiston-Davies, because Sam Twiston-Davies knows the value of a pound or euro or any currency in the world, which I like about Sam. I'm right, Sam, aren't I?
Well, I was brought up
Yeah.
obviously by my dad, Nigel, and then as
Carl
his
Llewellyn.
first jockey as Carl Llewellyn. I was brought up on the aspect when I actually first turned professional and started to make a few pounds. One of the first things I was like, oh, get a flash car. And first thing Carl said was, not before you buy a house, you won't.
Yeah. And it's like 100% right. It's still, without ranting on, I'm a jockey's agent and obviously work in racing TV, so I get in the races sometimes. Like I use Haydock as example in the first race of the day on the flat seasons, a 50 winner apprentice race, and you see 9 little jockeys coming in with their BMWs and your Mercs, and you're like, what are you doing? What are
Can't
you
be
doing?
done. Can't be
No,
done.
can't be
Got to
done.
get on the property market, bricks and mortar, never fail you. And no matter what happens, then you've always got something to fall back on.
Well said. Hopefully, at the end of the David Power Jockey Cup, you might have a deposit for house number 27.
Jeez, it would be lovely. I wish it was that many. That's probably what Carl ended up with and towards, but your money probably doesn't go quite as far as it used to.
You're doing well in the third place. Master Chewy good at the weekend. I'm just looking. Harry Skelton 270, Cobden 234, you 218, Nico 206, and then there's a gap to fifth in there.
Yeah.
Like, touch wood, we all stay safe, etc. is the most important thing, but you're going to struggle to fall out of the top 10, which means pound signs.
Well, the whole thing is, as you'll know, it's an incredibly lucky position for one to be in. To be competitive in David Power Cup means you're having a good season. It means you're busy. It means you're riding for a lot of the right people. And
in the right
as a
races.
jockey, yeah, that's all you want to be doing. You want to be riding in the best races on the Saturdays. And I've got really lucky this weekend with Harry Cobden having to go to Ascot. I get to have a go on Burdett Road. So you do get opportunities that pop up that you would want to do anyway. And then the added bonuses now, because they're all on ITV, you're getting a little bit of added incentive again.
And it's money that wasn't in the sport 12 months ago. It's money that we haven't took off Nigel's pocket or anywhere else. It's exactly. Fresh money.
Well, that's what's nice. Is I think with something like the David Power Cup, they've put a hell of a lot of money into it. And then you never know what it might lead to. And in seasons to come, who's to say they won't do a trainers championship, a owners championship, a leading horse? You never know what these things will lead to. And I think as long as we all receive it as well as we can and enjoy it and make the most of it and enjoy it, then you never truly know what it'll actually lead to.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a different era now, it's like I've seen lots of social media clips, my bachelor chatting to you, and it's just another side to. I like to think I know plenty of this quite well, but it's a side that maybe racing fans don't get to see of you and work out that you really are have an IQ of 2 when you see some of them.
Yeah, trust me, it doesn't get much higher than that. Is the worrying thing. And the nice thing is you see different personalities. Like Nico de Boinville is one of the finest tacticians in the weighing room. But then you see actually a little bit more of a side to him that we get to see, which is why he's so liked. Charlie Deutsch, one of the scruffiest human beings you'll ever meet. Then you'll watch him over a fence and you're just like, the man is a horseman through and through. But yeah, I have to sit next to him today at Hereford. He's gone for a run around the track. His sweatsuit is everywhere, absolutely disgusting, smelling of this, that and t'other. And that's what you're having to put up with. So people are actually getting to see a little bit more of the sides of the jockeys, which is to why we all get on so well, which is nice.
The good side and the smelly side. What age are you now?
32.
32. I always think of you just being young. And obviously you've plenty of years ahead of you. What's your first memory of? So obviously I'm older than you. I remember Niall Twiston-Davies, I think Tipping Tim, Arctic Kinsman. What's your first horse you remember?
So this is where I was really lucky. So you remember obviously the Grand Nationals, Bindery,
Earth Summit.
So 2002 Earth Summit, 1998. Don't remember at Earth Summit as well. Remember Bindery, we were at a friend's house and watched it. Willie fell off the pub roof the next day. And it's silly things like we were incredibly lucky. We were brought up obviously around racehorses all the way through. So from a young age, we were spending time at the breakfast with Carl Llewellyn, Tony Evans, Dave England, Tom Malloy, like jockeys like rode a lot of winners and were then educating me and Willie, not just in things of racing, but natural life. Like we were understanding about, it sounds a bit cheesy to say, you'd go into sex education and you just knew it by the back of your hand. Shame it wasn't a GCSE in it, is the truth.
Yeah. There's some. Tom Jenks was meant to ride him. Did he break his leg? No.
Oh yeah, no. Binderee, Jamie Goldstein was supposed to ride, and he broke a
Jim
leg.
Calotti rode.
Yeah. So then Calotti rode, and Llewellyn was on Bow.
Yeah.
There's so many great stories from around here. I never forget when Bow, a couple of years before, Carl got unseated off, and it was one of the nationals where everyone was getting unseated. He managed to catch Bow. That's it. He rang, robbed one of these security guards' phone, rang Nige and said, "Do you want me to get back on and complete for the prize money?" And Nige said, No, we'll run him somewhere else in the next couple of weeks. And that's kind of things that used to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Redemption. Remember him?
Yeah, he was cool. My funniest one was Shabali Fitz, Dave England. So I'd have been getting older now, so I remember it better. And he had a bit of a reputation for not being the best jumper. And they sent Dave England out, and all the lads were writing on his peg, "This is where Dave England sat." And little things like that. It's just like, you remember the little stories when the jockeys came home from all these nationals and we were watching on the telly and just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great era. Carl Llewellyn, obviously, still a big part of it, isn't he?
Yeah, still here. So Beauport is kind of, so the way obviously our team works is great because you have Willie's obviously knew about the scene, is obviously really helping Dad out. But then obviously he's falling into similar shoes to Jim Old and Carl Llewellyn. So Carl obviously has a handful, like he helps manage and such. So Beauport is obviously a key one of Carl's, and he's looking like now he's in the national with a nice weight and hopefully a live chance as well. So it shows Carl's attention to detail is still as good as ever.
And you won't remember Corbière, but you'll have seen pictures of Corbière in the same colours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Broadway Boy riding us.
Exactly. A lot of them. So actually, he got a good mention today. David Pruse's colours today at Hereford. Quite famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Being a certain vintage older than you, remember him well. You got beaten on a favourite today at Hereford. We're recording this on Wednesday evening. How was Nige after that? What did you do wrong?
He's actually quite good. Willie's as bad a loser as me, which is handy. But luckily it was one of those, everything went smooth. We had a good run through, and then just sadly just came up a little bit short. So where Willie and Dad are very good because they just look to straight away what we can do next time to win, whereas I'm just angry about the result on the day.
2010, 15 years ago, baby run. You haven't aged today.
Well, I don't know about that.
Was that after Imperial Commander, and he won the race before?
Race afterwards. I never forget it.
Imperial Commander was just before.
In my head,
Pigeon Island won the last.
Paddy Brennan, unbelievable. One of his best rides. Sensational. What had happened though, Imperial Commander had won and Baby Run was in the Fox Hunters race afterwards. So Dad wasn't able to come and get the saddle because obviously you have to do all of the interviews and such afterwards. You get rushed off to the hall and then you have to give up, obviously all the press are with you. So anyway, he was late into the paddock. He never come and got the saddle. And there was loads of pace. Isabel Thompset was going to make the running. And so I came in and said to Dad, I says, score is there's a lot more pace than in the normal hunter chases. And he started effing and blinding and telling me if I wasn't in front, I was no good. And if I was to miss the start, and like really went for it. And I was like, this man just won the Gold Cup. How on earth has he got the energy to be swearing at me at this stage? Yeah. And thankfully, old Baby Run was a legend. Like when the tapes went, he'd bend his knees and he'd be out the start like a rocket. So thankfully, it all went quite smoothly.
Yeah, it did. And then was it the year after you were champion Conditional straight away, weren't you?
Yeah. So funny story is actually Brian Hughes was brilliant. I then turned Conditional ready for the Scottish National to ride a horse called Razor Royale. And he finished fourth. I done Daryl Jacob on the line. There's like different jockey rules. So if you're staying on past someone, you always give, unless you're going for the win, you always give someone a shout just so they don't stand up and get done for running or stood up and you do them on the line. So I chinned Daryl Jacob for fourth in the Scottish National first ride as a professional. So I ran in like a kid, and Brian pointed out to me what we just kind of earned. So Daryl came straight up to me and went, "Sammy, you never gave me a shout." I went, "Yeah, I know, I did you for fourth." And I soon realised you actually had to shout lads rather than do them on the line for fourth place prize money.
Yeah. It happened then quite quick, didn't it? No, you had a
Yeah,
good grounding with your hunting and your amateur and growing up. As you say, every day you were surrounded by a successful yard and successful people. But you were sort of, I spoke to Harry Skelton a couple of weeks ago, and he said, like, when he wrote his claim out and he was with Paul Nicholls and in the era of all them good horses, he said, looking back now, he wasn't ready for it. But you sort of were ready to kick on quite early. Is that, do you think?
I was really lucky in an aspect where I grew up with, obviously, same as Harry, had lots of ponies about the place, and then obviously went on, and my early career as an amateur, we had a horse called Nez Rouge, and he obviously I'd fall off him nearly every other weekend. I've never learned so much off a horse in my life. And then when my mum was so good is Dad would give out the bollockings, Mum would be brilliant, and she'd say, "The points of points are here for you to learn. So go and see what suits, what doesn't. Like, don't be afraid to pull your stirrups up and down." And that's why she was so good, because we'd go away, because Dad was obviously still training a lot of winners, and obviously was as busy as ever. So we were going off point to pointing with absolutely no pressure. So we'd go away, my mum, my auntie Ronnie, and a guy called Willie the Builder, who actually built what is Grangehill Farm now. And I just make mistake after mistake, and without actually realising, I was learning a hell of a lot while doing it. So I
He just pull you over the head and didn't slip your reins, or is that the sort of thing?
made
Yeah.
all those mistakes. I never yet one day didn't weigh in, got that bollocking. One day went the wrong way, got that bollocking. So obviously, when you didn't go the right side of a mark or point to pointing, you just got fined. I had no money, so Mum was always paying the fines, and it was just one of those things where I was able to make a lot of mistakes and learn quite quickly. So then, when it did become conditional, and don't get me wrong, I still made plenty of mistakes as a conditional, but I was a lot more comfortable in what I was doing, and I was kind of backing myself when I was doing it.
And then champion conditional, then the new one, he came along fairly quick, didn't he, after the claim?
It was nearly enough season afterwards, yeah. So got really lucky. Never forget the day he turned up, Wayne Jones. So obviously at home we always do all our own breakers, and everyone kind of gets a feel for what's quiet and what's not. And Wayne Jones got a feel for this lad. Kenny was his nickname, quite quickly, and all of a sudden he became Wayne's ride. And then he came out, won his bumpers, and then obviously was sixth in a champion bumper. Then won the Aintree bumper, and he turned out to be the new one. So we were absolutely blessed. And he came at a time when I needed a horse to kind of get me onto the big stage, and he did that and some.
Yeah, he's small. King's Theatre, I think he was by.
King's Theatre he was, yeah,
and
great
he was
style.
small, wasn't he?
Yeah, wasn't the biggest. This is racehorses all over. It's how lucky you can get at times. He was supposed to run in a novice chase at Exeter one day with Ryan Hatch on. I was going to ride Frodon in the same race, and it was abandoned. So he went to the next week's international and won. He never then thought about jumping a fence again. And that's how lucky
amazing.
you can get.
Yeah. It's crackers how it works out sometimes, isn't it?
Imagine it'd be good to see what. So it was a 2-3 listed novice chase at Exeter. It'd been interesting to see who'd have come out on top.
Yeah. And then after, new one was sort of announced yourself that you could do it on the bigger stage if you like. Paul Nicholls, how'd that come about?
So I'll never forget it. So Ruby stopped. Daryl started riding a lot more, and I'd filtered in to ride Big Bucks one day, and went down to Paul's to sit on Big Bucks. I had to ride one around the school first just to check I could semi-do it, and then was allowed up on Big Bucks, and we ran in the Cleve. That sadly didn't go as we'd all hoped, but still it was a hell of an opportunity. And then I kind of filtered into the yard a little bit more then. Had to go on Tidal Bay and Union East, and I just got very lucky. I was going to a lot of the second, third meetings, and the horses were winning. So then obviously filtered in a bit more, and I got really lucky. Then that summer, I actually got offered another job with Di Walters and Simon and Isaac, which I accepted, and rang Paul just to thank him so much for all the support he'd given me, and in which he said, right, give me an hour. And within an hour, he'd rang me back and said, right, you're going to ride all of mine. So got incredibly lucky, and then we had a great relationship together, a lot of winners. First year was Dodging Bullets year, and then we had obviously Petit Son won the Coral the race
Coral
before,
Cup.
and we went. I think he went 26 Saturdays with having a winner consistently, and it was a remarkable time. But then, as anything happens, then a couple of seasons afterwards it gets a little bit harder, and horses weren't winning. And as a jockey, like confidence needs to be good. And I was going for a period of time where I probably wasn't riding my best. I was second guessing everything I was doing, and that's when the conversation was had. I was going to start sharing with Harry, and it was probably a time for me to come home and really prove to everyone that I could do it for myself and do it with Dad, which is great.
You mentioned the Queen Mother, like Paul Nicholls, you go Quarter Star, Demon, Big Bucks, all them really good horses. And I like Paul, I get on well with him. He is totally driven. And I'm sure not the easiest to ride for at times, I get it. But I think him winning the Queen Mother Championship, and you riding him maybe, dodging bullets, he was bred by Frankie Dettori. I don't want to be rude, but I think that's his best ever training performance.
Well, he's got so many of them. As fine a man as I'll ever know to place a horse for a race and just have him so right on the day.
For one day, yeah.
But, yeah, there's just so many occasions where he always said this was the plan, and so many times it worked out impeccably. I don't get me wrong. Yes, you're spot on. He was never the easiest to ride for, but why he was so good is because all he wanted to do was win. And it's why jockeys now get off in bad moods when they get beat and say things they shouldn't. But he just wants to win as bad as any jockey.
Yeah.
And then he lets his frustrations probably sometimes take out onto the jockey, which is understandable at times, especially when he thinks he's done something wrong. But
have you watched him watch a race?
Yes,
live?
A few times.
Crackers.
I won the Sussex Champion Hurdle one day, and Megan happened to be at home that day, and it was quite entertaining. So I just got up on the line, and she actually recorded him cheering the horse home. I was like, it's astonishing because he literally, I thought it was going to wreck the place. And it's quite nice. It's humbling to see because it was how much it means to him.
Yeah. And then after that, you went home. Ballyandy was a really good bumper horse, wasn't he? Obviously, Cheltenham bumper.
Yeah, he popped up at the right time. But then he was actually still in a year. So I was still obviously riding for Paul then because he was the same year as Solar Impulse.
Solar Impulse won the Grand Annual.
Yes. And one of Johnny Delahaye's, sorry, name escapes me.
Diego Charmy.
Yes. He won what was the Fred Winter back then. And just great memories. Ballyandy ended up being obviously a very good horse and jumped off. Favourite for Supreme, had a nightmare of a run round and all those kind of stories. Typical Cheltenham stuff.
But then your dad, you go back to your dad's, and then your dad, like, you know, if your dad retired today, we've mentioned Bindery, Summon, Imperial Commander, the new one, list of horses that before you're born, I was mentioned Tipping Tame, Arctic Kinsman, all them really good horses, but then he had a couple of quieter years, didn't he? And then you went blank, because everybody talks about Cheltenham, don't they? No. Your season, you could ride X amount of winners, but the real whacker was about 6-7 blank Cheltenham, wasn't it, before the real whacker popped up for Paddy Neville?
Been a long time. And you forget when I was with Paul, you were getting these Cheltenham winners and they were coming up nearly season on season. So then you don't actually really enjoy them to the extent you should. So when the real whacker happened again after kind of what had been a couple of blank years, you like that was really special. And especially obviously Justin, and they called the photo finish, and that moment when they actually said he'd won, it was as special a day as it had in a very long time.
Because riding at Cheltenham, if you're not in the first four in the betting or something, is a horrific experience for a jockey, really, isn't it? Especially the old track. It's just you're getting skittled everywhere. The horse that maybe shouldn't be there. You're absolutely flat out. It's just not a nice experience. Now, I'm older, clinically obese, and bottle went 2 decades ago, but I couldn't think of anything worse than making up the numbers in any of them. I remember riding in the Cheltenham bumper, and it's just, you'd rather ride in the Grand National. You'd feel safer.
Well, the maddest thing is when they moved the Grand Annual to the Wednesday.
Oh.
So you've got what used to be everyone's least favourite race, last race on the Friday, everyone trying too hard, is now on the Wednesday, and it is speed through and through. That is 2 mile chase. So the Champion Chase is a great race, but there's normally probably anywhere between, 5 to 12 of you. The Grand Annual nearly guarantee a full field at full speed, and that's when you really test your mettle.
Yeah, and that's when I remind myself I'm happy to be fat and lacking ability. I'm happy to watch on. Watch on.
Yeah.
Agents, you only had two agents. Chris Broad done you for a long time, local good friend of yours. I saw him recently at Cheltenham, and then he retired. Gordy Clarkson, who obviously is in around the Cotswolds, doing a good job.
Yeah. So Chris Broad was obviously straight with almost straight away because Carl Llewellyn, obviously he did so well for Carl, and Broady was just the best to deal with. He dealt with me. There'd be days I'd be coming home after I'd had a bad day with Paul, and you just ring him and just let everything out, and he was just the best because he'd sit and listen to it, and then without ever like being like too over the top, he'd say, "Right, you full well know you can ride. It's the reason you're riding these horses. So why are you going to let this get you down?" And he was probably the reason why I got through it all so well. And then he always—I've never let him forget this, mind. He always promised he'd see me out, but then obviously it's nice now. Jane, obviously his wife is off being a hell of a lot busier, and he's as busy as ever doing obviously everything he loves. So
But
it's
less
great to
stress.
see.
Yeah,
A lot less
stress with it.
stress.
Yeah,
And Gordy now is doing a fantastic job.
yeah.
However, too good a job some days. You'd be going up to places unheard of for one ride, and he'd be thinking, "Happy days, I've nicked a tenner here."
Yeah.
But Beaver does a good job.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and obviously he learned off Chris, so no surprise. But I suppose the thing with you, the fickle game was in, you fall out with people, whatever. But you rode Clan de Zabo, didn't you? Punchestown after sort of Paul. That must give you a lot of satisfaction that you didn't shut the door behind you.
Yeah. So Harry got injured at Aintree. He'd won the bowl that season, and then obviously he then went over to Ireland, and obviously it's during COVID, and it was just. But me, Paul, and I now we'd still get on fine. I was lucky enough to ride Brave Man's Game for him, in this year's Bet Fair, and like we still get on really well. I fully admit I haven't been down there in years, but it's a relationship where we've shared a lot of memories. I think so it's obviously Ruby, and Harry's actually catching Ruby up quite quickly on how many winners he's ridden for Paul. So obviously Ruby was obviously his most successful.
Yeah.
Harry catching up, and I think I was lucky enough to be the third most winning jockey for Paul. So we have a lot of good memories together, and I would be nowhere near as forward in my career as I am without him.
But now you've got a base, obviously your dad, but you've got a base of good people who use you weekly. James Owen,
Anthony Honeyball is fantastic.
And they're all sort of different trainers, aren't they? Andy Honeyball, you give a national hunt type that he can get ready. Some of them bumper horses he does exceptional well. But James Owen, good flat horses, he's in the dock. Shining example. We'll come on to him in a second. But you've got a core of 4, 5, 6 really good trainers.
It's all kind of through what was Broady was originally was Neil Mulholland, Dr. Newland, and then Gordy's then led on to him really lucky with James Owen and Anthony Honeyball. So it's kind of what's nice is can fall into bases, and hopefully my kind of way I ride suits some people, and I'll always be a happy-go-lucky, like try and make owners enjoy the day as best as I can, and do my very best by doing the homework right and making sure I get everything as clinical as I can before a race, so then hopefully in the race can make it as smooth as possible.
Mm-hmm. We've reminisced enough going forward. Master Chewy was good in the game of spirit.
Yeah, I was delighted for Jamie and Anne-Marie. At the end of the day, when you have he was quite an expensive, one of our most expensive ever purchases. So he had quite a lot of pressure originally when he came. And for a horse that actually hasn't won a lot of races, he's been placed in a hell of a lot. And imagine how many years ago it was when they took all the fences out to bump into Dejello in a novice handicap chase up at Aintree. So it shows obviously his form has worked out all the way through, and they've been very patient.
He was running well in the Arca last year, wasn't he, when he came down 2 out, but he was just running on.
He was. I've obviously, with Daryl being offered, ridden Matata, and obviously he looked like he was just coming to challenge. So he's had a fell early in a Tingle Creek, and then we ran him a week later back at Cheltenham, and he just wasn't quite himself. So thankfully, Jamie and Anne-Marie have been very patient, and he's now repairing them.
Yeah, absolutely. He could nick points for the David Power Jockeys Cup. He could nick prize money in Ryanair. You go, would you? He's in the Queen Mother. He's in Ryanair.
Reason as to why, and you actually mentioned it earlier, which is quite interesting. So Newbury, obviously, great big, very straightforward track. And I was just in top gear everywhere. So I was thinking, if you were to jump off, just watching some of the Irish racing recently, if you were to jump off in the champion chase and they were to go helter for skelter and you were to make a mistake somewhere down the back, your race is gone. You'll never get back into it around that old course. So we're thinking, why not punt on going slightly further on the new course and just letting him like slot in, take your time,
Having a run around.
relax, jump, and then if you can finish off well, you then might all of a sudden find the next jump. So he got put up, I think, to get put up £4 or £5. So he's going to naturally need to jump another £10 probably of improvement. But why not? Let's say he relaxes, gets into a good rhythm, he might be able to find that little bit more improvement.
Yeah. East India Ducks, the horse you're looking forward to the most, sure, isn't he? In the Triumph?
Him, and I promise you, no way am I writing off Potter's Charm.
I knew you were going to say that.
Telling you,
you're only saying that because Nigel will be watching this here.
Yeah, no, he's at hockey practice with his other children, so I'm safe.
How many children have you got now? 12, 14, 16?
So it's Willie and I, and then obviously 4 others.
4 others.
So there's plenty of Twiston-Davies to keep everyone busy for the future.
Yeah, and with Potter's Charm wins at Cheltenham, there could be another one on the way.
Yeah, God, magic.
Let's go back to East India Doc. He's bred to be a very good horse. Burdett Road's half brother.
Yeah.
What's he by? Golden Horn, is he?
He's Golden Horn, yeah.
Yeah. So he's a more rangy horse to look at, isn't he? Burdett Road's an out-and-out 2-miler. Well, this lad's only a 4-year-old, but he just looks like he could progress. But what he's done so far, he's been unbelievable, hasn't he?
Yeah, what I loved is course and distance.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's nice to go to that track on what actually wasn't that nice a ground on the day, get into a good rhythm, jumped well, and just showed a great attitude. And put the distance he did between themselves and the others is just there for all to see. Read a couple of things, time, form, and obviously listened to him, watch a lot of these podcasts, and you think that the figures he did were quite impressive. Yeah. So for now, it's just very much an exciting time, and really look forward to it. I'm actually going to go down to James's on Friday. Whether I sit on him or not, I don't know. But it's really nice to have a horse like him. As many years, as you said earlier, about the 20 to going to Cheltenham with 20-1 shots. To have a horse a shorter price for him and having the feel he's gave me a couple of times, it just is incredibly exciting. But it's still this stage now. It's fingers crossed, and hopefully he'll get there safe and sound.
And even it's a different Triumph hurdle now. You know, with your handicap numerically smaller, so it's an easier race to ride in.
A lot more are tempted to go for what is the Boodles now, just because the way the Triumph looks already, you're looking at the market of it and thinking there's only 5-6 in there that look generally competitive. So all of a sudden the handicapper, to be fair, is being a lot fairer to these juveniles, and they're looking like they're not going to be absolutely thrown out with no chance in the Boodles now. So a lot will end up wandering over that way. But even then, I hope we've got one that looks like nice enough for that in Lavender Hill Mob.
Who did you blame more after Potter's Charm, Willie or Nige? Who got the blame, or did you get the blame?
So, how our Cheltenham works, Willie and Dad would nearly always walk down the chute. One of them. So Willie walked down the chute, so he got a barrel. I wouldn't say both barrels
from you.
And then Willie, then to be fair, was upset with himself. And then when they got back to the winners' enclosure, it was kind of all getting it. I thought it was calming down slightly, but the traffic getting out of Cheltenham was quite bad that evening. So I text Willie, who's getting a lift home with me, and said, right, I'm going to the owners and trainers. I'm going to have a pint. I just need to not sit in traffic with you the whole way home. So anyway, we went and had a pint, and Willie wandered in 5-10 minutes later, and he explained that him and Nigel had quite a strong exchanging of words about it all. But Nigel always tell you why he's been so successful, because he will always have a go. The new one got beaten exactly the same race and went and won what's the Neptune then. And that's why he has been a fantastic trainer all the way through, because he then says, right, this is the plan. We're going to have a go. Why not? What's there to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. With certain trainers. With certain trainers, doing my job, you interview me, like, oh, we'll get him home. Today was the plan. Where will he go there? The ground will have to be right and all that. And the likes of Gowell Road is like the perfect example.
Yeah,
he's been second. He's been beat. He's been beat. He's been in a rock and a hard place. Just run him in the cleave. What happens? Wins it.
Yeah. And that's why he's so good. But then that's why Willie is incredibly good as well. Because where Dad is still the get him fit, get him well, and believe in what you see at home, Willie is then very good then with the plans. Right, we're going to have a handful of runs before Christmas. Then we had the conversation about running in the race up at Aintree rather than Newbury. Try and sharpen him up. and then it was straight to Cheltenham, was always the plan. So then when the plan then slightly differed, we were like, we're not really sure about this, because all the owners knew the plan. And then it was at entry stage. Admittedly, his work had stepped up before, but it was entry stage. You're looking at it and you're thinking, like, that's nearly a penalty kick. And that's then when the plan changed, and that's then when sadly the wheels fell off. But even to that point, the wheels didn't fall off that badly. Probably a horse of Fergal's is probably still a very good horse.
Yeah.
They still pulled well clear of the rest. And even then, we hope our lad can be a little bit better again, which is nice.
Absolutely. Your dad had a good bumper winner at Huntington. I really liked him. I'm hard to please me. I know you picked the wrong one. I wasn't going to mention it, but you mentioned it first.
I didn't pick the wrong one.
But he owns it himself. Does he still own him?
He bred it himself.
I know, but does he still own it today?
Yes.
There's somebody could buy this, who's listening to this podcast, and could have a runner at Cheltenham in their own colours.
Yes, and
he is a gorgeous-looking big horse.
Don't.
And that division was better than the other one.
It wasn't a quicker time, mind.
But I guarantee you, in 6 months, a year's time, that'll throw up way more winners than the first one.
Okay. So,
guarantee you.
This horse, right, so he's one of his homebreds. I have a thing against his homebreds because he always goes, like, to be fair, he's been very lucky. He's been allowed to go with, obviously, being friends with James and Jean Potter. He's been allowed to go up to when Blue Brazil was stood at Yorton. So he's been up there. He's obviously had some nice sires along the way. So this horse came, and literally these horses don't leave the farm. They have been up and down the same gallops.
That's
the only thing I will say, they have been off the bridle. And this thing had been off the bridle more than most here. So you're thinking, like, his work was not any bit flashy, but then turned up. So said, I was offered to ride one of the Sammy Thomas's. I says, yeah, that's grand. Like, Nigel will just be a bit green, probably run off one of the bends and do X, Y, Z wrong. So as it came storming past me up the straight, it was quite extraordinary. And I had to drive the trainer home then, singing his praises the whole way back.
Yeah. No, he's interesting. He told me he's going to go for the Cheltenham bumper.
He said he's for sale, and no matter if he owns him himself or what, he'll still run there.
Yeah. No, he will, definitely. It probably goes back from the old Mrs. Muck family. Do you remember that?
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's why you got the bug for breeding, is because he's obviously always enjoyed it. He's enjoyed watching it, the progeny all come along through, and he's actually having a handful of winners now. Sadly, his fillies never win GBB bonuses for him, so he's getting a little bit upset with that.
Good stuff. Right, short term, what we're looking forward to, Burdett Road Saturday, get more points in the David Power Jockeys Cup.
Touchwood, obviously very lucky in that with Harry going across to Ascot, I've ended up there. So I had to sit on him the other day. He jumped fantastic. Obviously, lovely.
He's relaxing more, isn't he?
A hell of a lot better, yeah. They've taken the hood off. Thought he was great at Kempton. Obviously, unfortunate to miss the last. Otherwise, he'd have been right up between, obviously, Lorena and Constitution Hill won well. He's a freak. But even so, he wouldn't have been beaten overly fast. So he's very much one to look forward to.
Good stuff. You've lots to look forward to. You've lots to reflect back on as well. You've had a great career. You're a credit to yourself and your family. It's been great to catch up, Sammy. I wish you the health to stay in one piece. It's most important. And I hope the rest of the season is very kind to you.
Well, it's very kind. Thank you very much. But I love it to bits and wouldn't want to be doing anything else, is the truth. So thank you.